Chapter 316 Be Braver, Part 3. Lu Shu walked slowly towards the flag podium. He knew that after the episode in the Salt Lake remains, he would definitely be promoted in rank and also receive new awards. However, he did not expect it to be so fast. They actually held the awards ceremony just 3 days after the return to Luocheng, and it was a ceremony specially for him alone. This feeling, so great. As he ascended the podium, Lu Shu suddenly turned around and saw Chao Qingxi looking hard at him. However, Lu Shu could not tell his emotions from his face. Chao Qingxi seemed calm. Lu Shu stood beside Li Yixiao. Li Yixiao continued, "The events that happened during the opening of the Salt Lake remains in Qingzhou. I'm sure all of you already knew about it. Today we are not only announcing Lu Shu's ascension to Class C, this is also an official title conferring ceremony. Lu Shu performed outstanding merits in the remains and the Heavenly Network had decided, in accordance to Lu Shu's achievements and his capabilities and class, to confer him the position of Major." Everyone could no longer hold their shock. The rank of Major. A freaking 17-year-old Major? What's everyone's level only at? Isn't the gap a little too wide? For example, what is the rank of Shi Fei and the others? Captain. This was saying, at Lu Shu's rocket speed, not only in terms of capabilities, but also rank-wise, he had already surpassed the class form teachers of the Heavenly Network. This would be a joke. Shi Fei saying, "Good morning, sir," to Lu Shu and him saying, "Good morning, teacher," back. But no matter how funny, it was now the reality. Even though Lu Shu had joked to Chen Bailey that he had the qualities of a major, he merely expected to hold the same rank as Shi Fei and the rest. And he really gave him the rank of major. In actual fact, most Class C experts held the rank of major. In general, to attain Class C cultivation technique, the experts must have performed meritorious acts to acquire the cultivation technique and break through Class C. In the Heavenly Network, as long as one is a Class C expert, he or she would definitely have achieved great merit. Hence it was not much of a problem in logic. Heavenly Network seniors such as Zhong Yutang who ruled an area were lieutenant colonels, and above them were various Heavenly Kings such as Nye Ting. It was not at all wrong to say that Lu Shu had become highly proficient. He certainly was that capable. As cultivation time increases, the number of practitioners in each class would gradually increase. Not just Class C or B, but a 2. The problem was, Lu Shu was now having a head start at the starting line. The most shocking thing was that among Lu Shu's classmates, everyone was subconsciously thinking that Lu Shu, a competitor relying on awakening, could be having a glorious time now. However, the rest would continue their enhancement of strength and Lu Shu would surely be left at the back. Who asked him to be the last of the 4th aptitude class? In the end, what the heck, not only did Lu Shu broke through Class D, he had then went on directly to Class C and they now had to look up to him. Lu Li was totally stunned. He had sacrificed his hair and in the end, still could not catch up with Lu Shu. Thinking back at what he had said, he had put himself in such an awkward position. Class C. When can we cultivate and reach Class C? For aptitude class of 2 and below, most whom wish to reach Class C, even if endowed with great fortune, people like Lu Li with Class 2 aptitude would need half a year, the rest, 1 year. And this was only if the person concerned had great merits and was smooth sailing in terms of the receiving of cultivation technique. If without any merit, one may even be stuck in Class E forever. This was the unbending rule of the Heavenly Network. The rank conferring ceremony had begun. Initially, Lu Shu had thought that he would receive 1 metalongsword. Surprisingly, Li Yixiao handed him 2 spears, and they were the skeletal cavalry spears seized at the Beimang remains previously. Not only that, he had given him not 1, but 2 at one go. It seemed to be provided according to Lu Shu's tossing capability. Special treatment. Even though Lu Shu still had 12 of the weapons in the Seal of Lands, he still accepted the 2 in gratitude upon seeing Li Yixiao's special treatment. After all, Lu Shu would still not say anything even if he had only been given a normal long sword. Li Yixiao chuckled softly, all the best with awakening. I really want to see how far can you go through awakening. If you are really that good and ascend to Class B, I will give my black dragon spear to you. Oh no. I can't really part with it. Let's talk about it again when you really reach Class B. Lu Shu's face darkened immediately. If you are not giving, then why say? What about becoming a laughing stock? Still, Lu Shu was really hoping to own the Black Dragon Spear. If he were to have it, it will be a great day, all-powerful metahuman. That was truly a weapon that comes with special powers. He was jolted back to reality by Li Yixiao's words, now that Nieting isn't in the capital, you don't have to rush over to make your progress report. I will inform you once he returns. You will go to the capital along with Chao Qingxi. Lu Shu tensed up. He really had to go according to procedure and report his progress. In that case, he had much preparation work to do. The only thing is, even Chao Qingxi is going to report progress? Has he reached the peak of Class D so quickly? One must know that Jiang Shuyi was only at mid-Class D. He heard that the place where Chao Qingxi lived was very dilapidated, not exactly a blessed environment. Chao Qingxi, he was the true genius. Come, say a few words. Li Yixiao grinned from ear to ear across his pudgy face. Lu Shu was stunned for a moment. He lowered his voice and said, I don't know how to give speeches. I shan't. Competitors like him could go into conflict with others. To ask him give an official speech, that would really be too tall an order. Since young, Lu Shu had been excelling academically. However, the class form teachers knew clearly his character and therefore, had never asked him to give any moving yet empty speeches. The teachers were all worried that the situation may get out of control. Now, after so many years, finally Li Yixiao was giving him the opportunity to make a speech. However, Lu Shu chose this moment to be stunned. He really did not know what to say. Li Yixiao was unhappy. Even a poor orator like me have already spoke so many times. You cannot let me be the only one making a fool. At this point, Li Yixiao encouraged, you're already a major, be more confident, be braver. Lu Shu gave a deep sigh after hearing Li Yixiao's words. His voice rose slightly, I can't. From Li Yixiao's distress, plus 666. Li Yixiao's face darkened instantly. Am I here to let you display your bravery like this? Or is it that you think just because you have Li Xianyi and Chen Beili protecting you, so you can? Am I unable to beat Lu Shu? Yes, I am. So furious, but I must maintain my smile. Ultimately, Lu Shu made no speech. He really hoped to reap a great deal in such occasions, but still, it was a solemn rank-conferring ceremony. Chapter 317, Secret to Awakening, Part 1. After the end of the rank-conferring ceremony, Lu Shu shouldered the 2 spears and walked out of the school. He did not greet anyone, nor did any of his classmates have any intention of greeting him. Some looked at the figure of Lu Shu carrying the 2 spears and were suddenly reminded of the scene where Lu Shu stood atop the Beimang Mountains, after the end of the Beimang remains. A little messed up, a little awkward, yet also a streak of daring heroism. No one knew how could this underperformer in everyone's mind suddenly make rise so fast. The Heavenly Network conferred a rank of major as reward, then gave him 2 spears. Everyone knew Lu Shu was the best at throwing spears, news had spread across the school. However, the issue was how frightfully good the treatment. Chao Qingxi was now only equipped with 1 standard longsword. Someone asked just as Lu Shu walked past, do you have any secret to awakening? Lu Shu jumped, yes. He turned around and glanced at Lu Li. Lu Li was instantly stunned. Why look at me, the heck, stop it. From Lu Li's distress, plus 666. Lu Shu smacked his lips. Despite everything that Lu Li said today, his intentions were good in persuading Lu Shu not to be a good-for-nothing. This little chap was merely spoilt at home and had a strong sense of superiority, but compared to people like Liang Che, Lu Li was not at all bad. Looking at the small tuft of hair on Lu Li's head, Lu Shu decided to pick the path of sustainable development. He had pulled enough out today. What is your secret? My secret is in my WeChat moments. All of you can scroll up and see, Lu Shu chuckled and left. Less than 5 minutes later, he received a few dozens friend requests. His moments could only be seen by friends. To see them, one must first befriend. Lu Shu looked at the friend requests and accepted all. In school, once they were accepted, people began to scroll through Lu Shu's moments frantically, but the contents were each more of a pain in the ass than the previous. They could not find anything even roughly resembling new secrets to awakening, even though they were almost poisoned by the poisonous egg soup. After some time, a person said with a complicated expression, "I may have found it." A large group of people hustled forth, "Let me see, what's the secret?" I saw an awakened one yesterday. Her powers may be very useful to everyone. Now I shall pass the techniques to all of you. Balala energy, Shalo Shalo, little demon god. Transform. What is this Balala little demon god, crazy? Lu Li looked at the bunch of people with a compassionate gaze normally reserved for the mentally retarded. All of you actually went to scroll through his moments? We have all seen this one and we have already added him into the blacklist. Those that fell for it first looked at the rest who were tricked later, a strange sense of superiority arising within them. They were in fact hoping for the others to fall for it like themselves. Somebody looked at the students of class F9 sorely, he puts up such moments and none of you care? The students of F9 again looked at them with gaze reserved for the retarded, who can care? Who here can beat him in a fight? What can we do? We feel hopeless too. Lu Shu returned home and immediately placed the 2 spears in the living room. They belonged to him and he could take them out to use openly. If he were to keep them in the Seal of Lands, he could not simply retrieve them from thin air when needed, right? Just nice, he would see which tailor shop could he contact to make a cover for the 2 spears so that he could sling them on his back. It would be impossible for him to shoulder them around every day, not quite convenient. In 2 days' time, Lu Shu had almost finished selling the smelly tofu he had. Selling from dawn to dusk, he had made over $5,000. To be honest, this way of selling things could not be compared to how he made money in the remains, but it was surely more stable. Lu Shu was himself a person who cared a lot about sustainable development. He would feel that something was not right if he did not make money every day. Lu Xiaoyu was watching anime on the sofa. Naruto. She had been doing so the whole day. Lu Shu told her upon entering that watching for too long was not good. Lu Xiaoyu replied that she wanted to emulate Gaara in Naruto, to provide herself a train of thought, because Gaara's attacks were all related to sand. What the? Lu Shu felt a little sore. Lu Xiaoyu's reasoning was indeed very right. In fact, Lu Shu was the one who went online to search for this anime and recommend to Xiaoyu. On the path of cultivation, they both were at a certain state already. However, as to issues such as how to deal with Anthony's soul, they still had no answer to how best to make use of it, such as what was the strongest way to attack with sand. The moves in the animation were not subjected to real-life testing. They may not be as vicious as depicted, and most moves may not be as practical in real life. Still, the anime could provide some thoughts. What Lu Shu meant was, explore boldly, verify cautiously. Such as obtaining solid ores from underground to mix with sand and form protective shields. Such as turning surrounding soil and mud instantly into sand and bury the enemy under 200 meters of sand, then turn the sand into millstone to finish off the enemy. Such as using the sand in place of one's own sight for investigative work. Such as using the power of sand to send oneself up into the sky. After all the various experimentation, they could surely find the more appropriate combat moves. Lu Shu felt that the other competitors would most probably not come up with any extra effective killing moves, since the rejuvenation of magical energy had only just started. Looking at how Anthony fought that time, his moves were pretty monotonous. However, nobody could deny that sometimes a single move can suffice. What Lu Shu wanted now was for Xiaoyu to find her weapon of choice which suited her best. After all, her greatest trump card now was Anthony's soul. However, at this rate, Lu Xiaoyu would have a legitimate reason for watching anime. Lu Shu felt as if he had taken a rock to smash his own feet. It was really because he had never had the time to watch these animations last time, and did not know such shows can run so long. A few hundred episodes, how long would it take? Seeing how reasoning would not work, Lu Shu would have to wait till Lu Xiaoyu go to bed at midnight, then go to the living room stealthily to hide the television she used to watch Naruto. Lu Shu was at this time having perfect muscle control. Barefooted, he crept from his room to the living room without a sound. But when he unplugged the power cord, all the lights in the living room came on. It turned out that Lu Xiaoyu did not return to her room at all and was all along standing silently at the door. She looked at Lu Shu, her face devoid of emotions. "Lu Shu, you are so immature." Lu Shu stood there rigid. "Don't all parents do this? How is this childish? Watch all you want." Lu Shu stormed back to his room in anger. Soon after that, he poked his head out again and glared at Little Fury on Xiaoyu's head. "Go do your homework." "Little Fury? What has this got to do with me?" From Little Fury's Distress, +1+1+1. Chapter 318, The Golden Sheet Again, Part 2. The war over anime between Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu had not ended. However, Lu Shu suddenly realized the next day that Lu Xiaoyu was really noting down all the sand attack moves diligently onto a small notepad, not just attack forms, but also her own thoughts about the usage. This came as a surprise to Lu Shu. Look, whose children don't watch cartoons, and it's the summer break now. Lu Shu decided to compromise. He returned to his own room to self-study Japanese through online videos. Upon seeing that, a smug Lu Xiaoyu gave Little Fury beside her on the sofa a wink. Little Fury sighed in its mind, so sneaky. Should I eat the energy sea fruit? Lu Shu sat cross-legged on his bed and pondered. This was a big question. Now even with Corpse Dog and Concealed Arrow both out, the snowy mountain cutting progress was still slow. If he were to eat one more energy sea fruit, he may never be able to open the energy sea. There were talks that Li Xianyi's whereabout was unknown. Lu Shu felt slightly angry every time he was reminded of this unreliable half-teacher. Still, Lu Shu was a headstrong competitor. He believed there may be new path opened if he were to continue. Blazing a new trail was also highly possible. Time for lucky draw. Lu Shu opened the lucky draw roulette and received a back-end prompt. The energy sea fruit is out of stock. Change to shop listing. 5,000 distress points for one. The lucky draw roulette will come up with new prizes. So expensive? Lu Shu was a little suspicious. Previously when he took part in the lucky draw, 5,000 distress points could be exchanged for 2. Now the price had rose so much, as if not wanting him to have the fruit. One must know that previously, when the fruits were converted into shop lists and could be purchased directly, it was always a better deal. Honestly speaking, now that the price had rose so crazily, Lu Shu did not have the heart to consume it anymore. However, the new prizes did catch Lu Shu's eyes and he was quick to open the lucky draw. He now possessed 420,000 distress points. He was planning to light up the first 3 stars and be left with 20,000 points. Just as Lu Shu was about to convert the star fruits, he discovered another prompt, energy sea fruit, nebula fruit. What the hell is a nebula fruit? He went to the store and gasped. What the heck? A nebula fruit is priced at 100,000 distress points. That is 100 times more expensive than a celestial fruit? Could it be an advanced version of the celestial fruit? Lu Shu's hands gave an involuntary tremble. If he convert just one and consume it, the first star of the third layer of nebula could be instantly lighted up. He gave a small sigh of relief. Indeed, this was an advanced version and could save him the trouble of eating a few hundred fruits at one go. He would not have the energy to do that even if there was time. Lighting up 3 stars at one go. After that, he still required a massive 400,000, 800,000 distress points. The road ahead was still long. Now, even if he were to use both corpse dog and concealed arrows simultaneously, Lu Shu could still last more than an hour in a high-difficulty battle. If he fight the injured Anthony now at his current state, Anthony would find it hard to even break through the defense of his celestial cloak. Opening the lucky draw, Lu Shu was full of expectations as he waited for the lucky draw roulette to come up with something fascinating. After 100 distress points were thrown in, the roulette began spinning fast. When the wheel stopped, Lu Shu looked at the thing the needle was pointing at and almost flipped his table. The stinky tofu almost recommended by A Bite of China documentary series. What the heck? What is this almost recommended? How can they screw people around like this? This is the new item as mentioned? Are you able to absorb my distress points to level up or what? Lu Shu's mood at that point in time was hardly describable. He converted one stinky tofu and bit into the black-colored delicacy. Instantly, the soft, white interior of the bean curd was exposed. It was crispy on the outside and soft within. The spice tasted like authentic wild pepper and the spiciness made Lu Shu perspire profusely. It was indeed delicious, but what was the point? Thump. Lu Xiaoyu pushed open the door and entered, emotionless. Not uttering a word, she took the stinky tofu from Lu Shu and left silently. Lu Shu was totally caught off guard. Okay, you guys are the badass. Continue the lucky drawing. Lu Shu's greatest wish now was for the appearance of an item similar to the energy sea fruit. Even though he did not know what would appear, Lu Shu was not utterly disappointed yet. After drawing for over 100 times, just as Lu Shu was about to go numb, the needle on the roulette wheel suddenly landed on a golden sheet. Lu Shu's heart felt like it missed a beat. The first time a gold sheet appeared, it was a little star. The second time was Lu Xiaoyu's cultivation technique. Could the third time be some invincible skill or something? He spared no time in retrieving the golden sheet from the back-end item column. However, the golden sheet turned instantly into gold dust and floated towards the walls. Lu Shu stretched out his arms to catch the powdery gold, but they were like shards of light that were out of reach and impossible to catch as they floated right through the walls. He threw open his bedroom door and could only look on helplessly as the gold powder landed in Little Fury's body. Little Fury was then clutching the stinky tofu with its 2 tiny claws and savoring the delicacy. Return them to me. Lu Shu inverted Little Fury by grabbing its legs and started to shake it violently, as if trying to shake the golden lights out of Little Fury's body. Little Fury was utterly stunned as it was shaken up and did not dare to move a muscle, totally clueless about what was happening. Lu Xiaoyu, too, looked at Lu Shu in shock. Wasn't it just a piece of stinky tofu? However, everyone understood soon after coming out of their shock. The issue lay with the golden lights. Lu Shu was also feeling beaten. From the look of it, the golden sheet was acting on its own in search of a host to reside in and was not subject to any control at all. Which also meant that they had chosen Little Fury. Lu Shu asked, heartbroken, "What are those for?" He suddenly thought of a problem. Previously, it seemed like the golden sheet also floated into Lu Xiaoyu's body, and every time she made someone angry after that, the distress points would be clocked in Lu Shu's record directly. Would it be the same in Little Fury's case? If it was really the case, this outcome could still be accepted. Little Fury shook its head and gesticulated for a very long time, saying it knew not what was going on and had to go think about it. Then why aren't you go think about it now? Lu Shu said brusquely. If you don't get to the bottom of the issue by tonight, I will give you double the homework to do tomorrow. From Little Fury's Distress, plus 666. Lu Shu was stunned. Little Fury's distress points had been overcome. Chapter 319, You Dare Come Back. Part 3. To tell the truth, Lu Shu really did not expect just a piece of golden sheet could let Little Fury break through directly. How? What was the reason behind this? Little Fury, feeling deeply wronged, hugged the remaining piece of stinky tofu and went off to explore the powers of the golden lights. Just now, when Lu Shu was shaking it so violently, it was still hugging the tofu tightly to its chest. However, it had realized that being with Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu was also highly beneficial. Unconsciously, Little Fury had long since considered Lu Shu, Lu Xiaoyu and itself a family. No matter how much Lu Shu had asked it to do homework, they had always treated it like a family member. For instance, there will always be food for it on the table at every meal. Strangely, Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu had also never treated Little Fury like a pet. Sometimes, people may think that pets are living a good life. However, are the pets really happy to be cooped up in cages? For pets which have had their magical intelligence activated, would they be willing to lie on the ground and lick out of plates their whole life? If their magical intelligence was not activated, then it is another matter, but what if it is? Hence, Lu Shu had been thinking a lot previously if the intelligent pets of the rich and powerful in the Middle East would one day get back at them with vengeance. Lu Shu returned to his room and continued his lucky draw. He hoped to be able to obtain another golden sheet or something like that. However, he knew how rare they were. He went on to use up his 20,000 distress points on the lucky draw. Looking at his meager savings, Lu Shu suddenly felt liberated overnight. In the end, all he got was 200 stinky tofu almost recommended in China, and nothing else. Lu Shu looked at himself in the mirror. But his face was not black. Right at this moment, Lu Shu was suddenly hit by a wave of fatigue. The fatigue came out of nowhere. He was still feeling awake one moment and suddenly felt unimaginably exhausted the next, the kind that would make him fall asleep instantly once he lie down on his bed. Lu Shu suddenly realized that this was not a normal kind of fatigue. He looked on as the celestial energy went on their own accord to obliterate the fatigue. Lu Shu quickly stopped them and slowly lay himself on the bed. Lu Shu walked alone on a quiet street that was utterly devoid of anyone else. He was very familiar with this place. In fact, he had stayed here for 16 years, the welfare home. Over a dozen times the swing had been spoiled, and over a dozen times the old director of the home had fixed it himself. Then, Lu Xiaoyu's favorite activity had been to ride the swing while Lu Shu pushed her from behind. In those days, everyone would be fighting to get on the one and only swing, and Lu Shu could always get it for her. It was not because Lu Shu was a good fighter. He was by then the eldest orphan in the welfare home, nobody dared to offend him. Lu Shu was taking in the familiar surroundings when all of a sudden, a large group of people emerged from the home. They were momentarily stunned to see Lu Shu, and he too, was stunned. After that, a leader among them shouted, "Whack him." Lu Shu was shocked to discover that everyone had class D or above power and were all coming at him barefisted. What the heck? He took a blow intentionally only to realize that the opponent's blow, despite having used all his strength, merely left a faint bruise upon Lu Shu. This must be the difference in power between class C and D. Lu Shu tried to feel within himself and discovered that everything felt normal. He immediately drew out a spear from the Seal of Lands and began to beat the adversaries as they ran all over the street. The difference in power was indeed too great, could not win the fight, could not escape. Just as Lu Shu fell the last person, everything dissolved in a puff of smoke. Right before everything disappeared in smoke, Lu Shu saw a furry white figure with a tuft of purple hair on its head. "Little Fury, come over here." Lu Shu sat up on his bed. Little Fury, looking hurt and crumpled, shuffled slowly in from the living room. It was still holding an exercise book. On it was written, "You were the one who asked me to go explore the powers." Lu Shu was incensed. "You want to beat me up?" In what he experienced just now, the setting was retrieved from Lu Shu's memory, but the characters inside were strangers to him. Yet, they had wanted to beat him up upon seeing him. This Lu Shu could not put up with. "No." Little Fury quickly wrote on its book, "Really, no. I think you are having too few homework." From Little Fury's distress, plus 199. "Can you retrieve my memory through my dream?" Lu Shu asked. Little Fury indicated it could not. The setting materialized by itself and it could not control that. It could only control the people within the dream. Lu Shu was a little skeptical. He took a look at his chest and saw no bruise, meaning the injury in the dream was not real. But what about killing somebody? If a person's consciousness is killed, will he die also in reality? Lu Shu was not sure. He instructed, "Let me tell you. Without my permission, you should absolutely not kill anyone in dreams." Little Fury nodded frantically and indicated that it was a law-abiding citizen. "All right, I shall not make things difficult for you anymore. Go out and play by yourself." Lu Shu took out a new refresher fruit and diluted it in a small pail. "Give it to your little pals." This 1,000 distress points had been obtained just now from Little Fury. Lu Shu had always been considering an underground intelligence system using rats. As for whether it would really happen, only time will tell. It would not hurt to give it a try. Lu Shu had always regarded Luochang as his base camp. Of course he had to manage it better. Little Fury went out. Not long after that, Lu Shu suddenly started to receive a wave of distress points from strangers. Dumbfounded, Lu Shu also realized that this could be distress points created by Little Fury for him. Could it be the guess that if he imbues someone with cultivation technique, the person would convert distress points for him was really founded? Lu Shu observed the distress points he was receiving. The source names were all unfamiliar to him. Suddenly, a familiar name appeared, Li Qingyu. Was this not his classmate's name? Previously, this guy had exposed Lu Shu's aptitude to the class and had been expelled straight away by the Daoyuan class. Lu Shu did not know if this was a coincidence. A few minutes later, he saw in his moments a post by Li Qingyu, "Had a dream just now of being beaten up by a group of people. I then woke up in fright. I went back to sleep after that to dream of the same group of people again, who told me, 'You dare to come back.'" Lu Shu burst out laughing. If not for the fact that it was Little Fury's doing, Lu Shu would have played it live and wreck it. Lu Shu quickly commented. Lu Shu was surprised that this guy had not blocked him. Perhaps after he left Daoyuan class, they never had any more interactions and therefore Lu Shu had no qualm towards him. However, he would probably be blocked soon. From Li Qingyu's distress, plus 299. Chapter 320, Gathering Magical Energy, Part 1. After Little Fury was done settling the little brothers down, it staggered back home. It saw Lu Shu standing at the doorway looking at itself with a funny smile just as it leapt into the yard. Frightened, Little Fury leapt out again. "Come back." Lu Shu's face darkened instantly. "Am I that scary?" Little Fury was unhappy. "Whether you are scary or not, don't you have the slightest idea?" Lu Shu saw Little Fury taking its time shuffling up to him and smiled. "Try not to publicize your capabilities, or else some people in Luochang may take notice of you. Try your best to study the powers you possess now and see to what extent can you control dreams. However, as much as you can, don't beat up people anymore." Little Fury quickly nodded. Lu Shu continued, "Using the power you have, you are still too deliberate when infiltrating into the dreams of others. I hope you can evolve the dreams into more realistic ones. If even those who are consciously guarding against infiltration think that they are dreaming, that will be the best." To Lu Shu, he had suspected something was wrong when the fatigue hit him. Therefore, he did not feel that he was in a dream even when dreaming and felt like a bystander. Ordinary people like Li Qingyu may fall for it, but Lu Shu, never. If Little Fury could make the dreamland more realistic, it may be highly useful in the future. Lu Shu went into the house and entered the Seal of Lands. His consciousness walked across the giant skybridge built for him by the seal and ascended to the sky above Luo Cheng. He was enjoying a bird's-eye view of the entire vista. Magical energy on the ground was enshrouding the city like mist, yet was more energetic and pulsating than any mist. At the relics of the Beimeng remains, immense magical energy rise into the air like steam. That was the choice site of the heavenly network. No wonder they chose the site. Lu Shu thought initially that the magical energy would dissipate and disappear, but along with the end of the remains, the place became instead a blessed land. Now, Lu Shu could still see the place sealed according to martial law. The military tents were still not removed. Once in a while, a few familiar heavenly network fighters would appear. It seemed like they would gather here for their cultivation every night. When the fighters first started practice, the density of magical energy was still poor, resulting in their slow progress. Now, the speed of magical energy rejuvenation was increasing, and some students were fast surpassing the fighters. The heavenly network could not ignore this issue. No matter whether was it fighting prowess or the state of their capabilities, the heavenly network fighters were still having an upper hand. Moreover, they were trained as the key points of the plan to promote all areas by drawing upon the experiences of specific points. Such was the logic of the veterans mentoring the newcomers. However, it would be really embarrassing if they became weaker than the students. This was why there was a restriction of achievements. On one hand, it was so that the students of Daoyuan class would be daring and fearless in battles. On the other, it was to ensure the stability of the overall situation. The overall situation was of utmost importance. Perhaps they could open up the cultivation technique and allow them to cultivate as they wish, but if there were conflicts internally so soon, having so many powerful practitioners would only spell disaster. Overlooking the lands of Luo Cheng, if not for this move, Lu Shu would probably not discover. The magical energy now was slightly stronger than the previous time he entered the Seal of Lands. Not just any particular area, but the whole of Luo Cheng was so. As expected, the periodic rejuvenation of magical energy was still ongoing. Lu Shu looked at a lone villa beside the Luo River. That was where Jiang Shuyi was staying alone. The Jiang family did not seem to be staying there. It was only Jiang Shuyi, who needed the cultivation, would go there every day after school. This was the famed blessed land in Luo Cheng. Lu Shu took a look around and concluded that, indeed, other than certain ancient jungles, there were not many places with as strong a magical presence as this villa. Tonight, Lu Shu wanted to enhance the magical energy at Jiang Shuyi's villa. He wanted the energy level here to be stronger. It should at least be on par with the level at the remains, right? Before the summer break, the two experts from the capital who could feel constitutions left feudal after a few months of experience. They went straight back to report on it. This was basically the greatest threat. However, Lu Shu was not particularly worried. What he planned to alter tonight was more than just these. He still understood the adage of how a single truth among many falsehoods could confound one's vision. Moreover, Jiang Shuyi was now not in Luo Cheng. There were people in the heavenly network to prove his alibi. Lu Shu's mind was of course set at ease. In a split-second thought, Lu Shu did not frighten the residents. Who knew if there may be a person in the midst of practice in any of the units? To end their path of cultivation for no reason was not a nice thing to do. All he gathered was the energy on the streets, since nobody would practice while sitting on the streets. The transfer of magical energy occurred very slowly. Lu Shu was very patient. From start to end, much changes were made before he could bring it to Jiang Shuyi's place. It took a full hour for Lu Shu to increase the level of magical energy at Jiang Shuyi's villa to that of Beimeng remains. Want to add a little more? Let's add some more. Yes, some more. Lu Shu chattered alone above Luo Cheng and finally regarded his finished work in satisfaction. This should be enough for Jiang Shui's cultivation, right? It felt as though the magical stones would not even be needed. Only then did Lu Shu finally feel at ease enough to go to bed. 7 days later, Jiang Shui emerged from the Beiming airport brimming with life. When he arrived, a sedan was already awaiting him outside. The chauffeur asked as he got in, "Going to the place of cultivation or back home?" "Let's go to the place of cultivation," Jiang Shui replied. The sedan made its way over to the solitary villa. Jiang Shui suddenly asked, "Nothing much going on in Luocheng recently, right?" "Nothing," the chauffeur replied with a smile. But they both were stunned when they arrived at the villa. Looking at the grass in the lawn, which had grown to over 2 meters tall, the two men were shocked to realize that the entrance to the villa was totally hidden. What was the situation? He had left for only few days, and the grass looked as if they had been abandoned and desolate for a dozen years. How fast the grass grew! Not only that, even the indoor plants in the villa was the same. Jiang Shui looked up to see every window of the villa overgrown from the inside out with plants. The roof was already broken through by the plants. Jiang Shui, dumbfounded, parted the grass with his hands and walked to the door. He realized in shock that the walls were full of small cracks. Weeds had begun to grow tenaciously out of the walls. The plants could actually pry open the mortar joints. Jiang Shui inserted the key into the keyhole of the main door, only to realize that the door was so badly deformed that opening it was difficult. Still, Jiang Shui was powerful and with a smash, brought the door down. Yes, the whole door came down. Something is wrong, Jiang Shui grabbed his chauffeur's collar and raced to the back. Crash! The whole villa collapsed. A potted plant in the house actually broke through the vase with its roots, went beneath the floor and took root in the soil. It then went on to become a towering, strange tree. What the heck? Jiang Shui took the environment with a stunned face. From Jiang Shui's distress, plus 999.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty, man, we just putting on a show.